Dr. Sima Samar, thank you ever so much for coming on the show to talk about Sima Samar, not just Afghanistan, but this time talk about Sima Samar, about your book, Outspoken, My Fight for Freedom and Human Rights in Afghanistan.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be with you again. Yes, it's a book that I try to write. People were asking that I should write a book because I wanted to share the story of my life and my journey in Afghanistan as a girl who born in Hazarajat in Johri, and then went to a co-education school and then to university, and start struggling for equality and human rights in all my life.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, part of a small amount of the stories that I gone through, because it's difficult to bring everything in the book.
Yeah.
And but I wrote in the book some of the stories that has to be known.
Yeah.
And also my opinion, what I saw in my life,
Yeah.
and what I saw on politics in Afghanistan, in a country called Afghanistan, and watch the role of a woman within the society.
But you start the book. I mean, it's a heavy book. I've had the privilege of reading it before publication. It's a very emotionally charged, heavy book to read. And that heaviness starts from the very beginning. You dedicate the book not just to a specific person that you love, not just to a family, not just to, your children, your husband, but to the people who've suffered so much, to the people of Afghanistan. And for anyone who knows Afghanistan, the first words of the book hits you and hits you very hard, because those, that small paragraphs in the dedication page tells you so much about the book itself, about the country, and about you, Sima Samar. And then when the chapter begins, you start with there are three strikes against me. I am a woman, I speak for women, and I am a Hazara. Now, why?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to dedicate the book, as you said, that to the people who really suffered and nobody really talks about them. And thousands of people, civilians, who had not done any crimes or who has not been criminals, they were taken and they were killed by different groups. Started with the Khalqi and Parchami government, and then every other group of armed group who were fighting against the USSR invasion, and also during the last years, a lot of people who were killed and don't have graves. And I witness all these in my personal life and also in my professional life. So I wanted to dedicate the book to those, and also to the women in my country who live under patriarchy. That's no doubt on it, but practically living under gender apartheid, a very systematic isolation and discrimination based on their gender. And thirdly, of course, to all the women who lives under patriarchy, and it's not only Afghanistan who suffer from inequality between the gender, it is all over. Even in very developed countries, you see that there's a backlashes on women's rights. And there's, unfortunately, patriarchy in rise. So I just wanted to dedicate to those. I mean, it's a small, the small things that I wanted to do for people who are discriminated either based on their gender and based on their ethnicity. So in my and I started that I have 3 strikes against me. I suffered from all these, what I said, because I was a woman, and then women in my country. As I said, we are living under patriarchy and conservative condition. The inequality that I saw in my personal life. And also, as outspoken, you know that the people doesn't like women who are outspoken. And that is not the Hadar so-called, the one who is not speaking, the one who bear all the discrimination and violence. They are so-called said in our community a good woman. And also I'm a Hazara. There's no doubt that the Hazaras are prosecuted in Afghanistan for so many years and continues to be the case. And so that's why I said that is true, not only in my entire life, but also I feel it even now because of my ethnicity. And because of the style that I have, I can see the discrimination. I can see bad words, bad comments in the media and the social media. So that was the reason that I started the book with that 3 weaknesses or 3. I think for me it's the 3 reason that I stand for and fight for freedom.
Yeah, and then you take the readers to a place in Kabul, Dashti Barchi, and that's probably the most painful and dramatic way that you could start the book. You talk about Dashti Barchi, the western part of Kabul, the Hazara-dominated west of Kabul, where a school gets attacked, and then you set the scene for the entirety of the beginning of the book about that Sayyid Shuhada school being attacked. And that's when you say you're heartbroken, and that's when you thought and believed this is the beginning of the end for Afghanistan.
Yes, I think the reason that I started from that, because that day I discussed and I wanted to start to write the book. Of course, I did wrote it in Persian. I have some notes on that. So that's why I started from that. I have to mention that it's a lot of stories that I wanted to put it in the book, but I didn't want to make it so horrible, so difficult and heavy, as you said, for the people to read. But yes, I mean, and that was the example of one of the suffering of the people. It's many days that was very, very difficult. And not only in Dashti Barchi, but the recent attacks in Dashti Barchi was really, really a lot. I mean, I was crying for the attacks in Helmand. I was crying for attacks in Jalalabad and Khost and Kunar. But this one was so horrible. And the attack in the school and the education center has a very strong sign of the people's mentality against education, against knowledge. So that's why, and that is one of the tool that empowered me to stand and fight. And that was education. So education, or access to education for me, for the people generally, but particularly for the girls, is a tool to empowerment, is a tool for sustainable development. It's a tool for a better life, to live with dignity and fight for your dignity. So that was the reason that the attack, say the Shuhada. it just happened that day that I
Mm.
decided to write.
And going back, your activism, in a sense, your political activism started when you were a child. You've had this rebelliousness about you from a very young age. You were born in Hazarajat and Joguri, and then taken to Lashkargah to go to school. That is where your, initial activism, rebelling against the norms that were set by the patriarchy, as you call it, begin. And what was it that drove you? I mean, why couldn't you just be just a normal girl, go to
Yeah.
school and that's it?
I hope I'm not abnormal, but
Not normal, I mean by the standard that's
yeah,
set by that
exactly.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm not saying that you're
Uh,
not normal.
yes, I think few things. One,
Mm,
when we moved to Helmand, to Lashkargah, um, because I was going to the mosque and I learned how to read and write the Persian. Although we didn't have a notebook, we were
mm.
writing on a board, on a wooden
Yes,
board.
the wooden
And
board.
then we were washing it and then rewriting everything. And we were doing the math also on that board. And also what I learned in Jawhari and Hazarajat about the religion was the Shia religion. Nobody told me that there
Mm,
is another kind of
mm,
religion. So my father took me to the school,
mm,
and then the headmaster was really a nice woman. She was very, very kind and nice. I cannot forget her image. And my father said that she is able to read and write, and she is able to do the simple math. If she can be tested in order
mm,
to put her in a second grade. So the headmistress, she was said, yes, why not? And she took me to the classroom. And then the teacher asked me Persian. Although I coming from Jowhari and then
mm,
knowing the the Kabuli dialect was not an easy. But
mhm,
she said to read this page, and I was able to read. And she asked some spelling, and I did it on the blackboard with the chalk in my first day
mm.
of my school, and seeing a blackboard. And it was, of course, nice school because it was built by the Americans at that time.
Yeah.
So I did the spelling and I did the math also in the board and the blackboard. And then she asked about the religion. I said what I knew.
Mhm.
So when it came to who you love, Dostar Kisti,
Yeah.
I
Who
said,
you follow?
yeah, yes, Ali Sher Khuda. And she got upset. And she really got upset. I don't remember the exact word, but one was the stupid Hazara. She took me to the office of the headmaster and said that she is all this nonsense. She says
Mhm.
she's
Yeah.
Hazara, and I was crying because I didn't know what is my mistake.
Yeah.
And then the headmaster, she said that okay, she asked the teacher to go back to the classroom, and she said she will take care of the issue. And it was the beginning of cold weather. Lashkargah is
Mm.
getting very cold,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
it does get that cold that they put the
Mm.
wooden stoves in the classroom. They only put the stove in the office, not yet in the classroom.
Mm.
So the headmistress asked me to warm up myself, and then she said she will ask the question. She started by asking, I said that the first two, Allah and
Mm.
Muhammad. And then when it came to Ali, she asked, and I kept quiet. And she said that, say what you know. And she insisted I should say. And I said, Ali Sher Khuda, the way that I
Mm.
was thinking, I mean, why I should be punished because I
Mm.
know this way. And then she said, yes, okay, you say this at home, and in the school you should say Choriyar Basafa. And then she asked, what do you say? And I said Choriyar Basafa. And then she said, okay, go back to the classroom. And I didn't go back to the classroom because I was afraid to go back to the classroom. And I didn't know how to go to our house because that was my first day in the school. And my brothers were in the school. So in the morning when everybody was leaving for the school, my father told my brothers that, be careful, don't forget her in the school, bring her back with you because she doesn't know. So I was sitting on the cold cement sofa waiting for my brothers. And I was afraid that among these, maybe, I don't know exactly, but maybe around 400, 500 students, I will lose my brothers. Finally, it took a long time that I sat on that cold weather. And then as soon as I saw them, I started crying that I was trying to make up what to say to convince my father not to bring me again
to the school.
But as soon as I entered in the house, then I cried really loudly and I said, I will not go again there. And my father said, no, I know what to do. He said, I'll take you again. Next morning, I was trying to ask for my mother's help to not take me, but of course they were not able to say anything when my father was deciding to do something. So next morning, my father took me to the school and talked to the headmistress. And she apologized. She was very kind. She took me to the second grade. She said, I will not take her to the same class anymore. So she took me to...
That was your first win.
Yes. And I saw, it was, of course, there was this discrimination against the Hazaras, but not in this level that we see today.
So you think it's got worse over the time?
Yes, it got worse with the fighting. Always, the war is always destructive.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking that if we were following that same path in Afghanistan without the intervention of USSR and the Western countries, we might have been in a better position because the path was not too bad. It was a poor country, but it was not very progressive as well. Although, we were able to go on strike.
You started agitating in high school. You're active. You become an activist at high school. You're holding meetings, gatherings, demanding things.
Yes.
And then you went to university. Before you went to university, you got married to Professor Ghafoor. You moved to Kabul together while you're still studying you're studying medicine at Kabul Medical University. And then Afghanistan falls apart in a sense that political stability just dashes to the ground. So I'm, going through the pages of the book, and you can see how confusing, how difficult it must have been, because you stood against so many things, so many people. You stood against your father. You pursued your dream of becoming a doctor. You went to Kabul. You were living on your own, and then and Afghanistan becomes this shattered place politically, and you become really, really politically engaged.
Well, yes, I think, as I said, that I began to fight for equality in home and also in the school, and I was thinking maybe we should find a way to have a better life. It's for a child, it's very difficult to learn one kind of religion for home and another kind of religion for the school.
Yeah.
So when the teacher was asking about the praying, so I was thinking hardly not to make a mistake as I did at the beginning, or to say what we do at home. Practically, we were doing like different kind of praying, not different kind, I would say, and different number of rakat of the pray. And so it was kind of not easy. And then learn everything on our Shias for the performance at home and then doing it differently for the school. That was not easy. And it's not easy for a child, 7 year or 8 year or 6-year-old to understand what is going on. And it's all politics. So
Yeah.
as soon as I opened a little bit of my, and I was reading the books, so when my eyes were open a little bit, then I started to be involved on these issues.
And now in Kabul, you're newly married, and then you have your son Ali. Then your life falls apart in so many different ways. Afghanistan's invaded, just pre-Afghanistan's invasion, the communist takeover of Afghanistan. You can't, for somebody who's not experienced that and who've not been there, how it's very surprising in a frightening way how things changes so quickly, and how that environment of fear descends all over the country, especially when you're in Kabul. And then you have your friends taken, your relatives taken, and then your husband's taken, his brothers are taken. How easy did you find to write about those moments?
No, well, it was not easy, and it's
I mean,
still
sorry,
not
how
easy.
difficult did you find to write about those things? I mean, those paragraphs, those words, how did you manage?
Well, I have to admit that I never forget, because it was very difficult, and it's still difficult because it doesn't leave my mind. So I wanted this to be in the book, because if you look at the books which was written by Khalqiz and Parchamis, by other politicians, it doesn't say the pain that a woman go through. Not much about a woman's life, or a woman in a situation like me. Like, let's say my husband's brothers, who were taken, their wife or not highly educated, they are able to read and write, but they are not educated. They did not express their pain the way I gone through. So I wanted that to come out, and particularly I wanted to show to the people who think that Sima Samar become a minister, somebody brought her there and put her as a minister. I wanted to show to the young people, particularly, and to the people, to the outside world also, that we've gone through a lot of problems, and I'm happy that I achieved those things.
Yes, and for me, especially that, that era of your life where, you're young, you're still full-time student at a medical university. It's a tumultuous time for your family. You've had it's the painful choices that you had to make. And it's just that makes me think, going through the pages thinking, how could you carry on like that? You gave up your child to your mother because you had an ambition, right? And your mother was to look after your child when he was a baby. And then you and your husband stuck together, had a strong will to continue to create this amazing future that you'd all had dreamed about. And then your husband's taken from you, his brothers are taken, the family's torn apart. And, that painful episodes of you going to the Pulcharki prison every Friday. And I was, there are things that there are moments in the book that you just close the book and sit there and reflect and think. And I took notes and I said, how did you carry on? How were you managing with your physical health, mental health, emotions, expectations, all of that? How was it?
Yeah, it was not easy. It was because, first of all, I was like economically, I was not in a good position because whatever we had
Mm,
was the income of my husband, the monthly income that he get. And then when I lost him, and in fact, he actually got 12,000 Afghani. He borrowed from the teachers' unions
mm,
box or help. And he asked me to go and put that money and my name in the bank.
mm,
And because I was so careless, I said, I don't want to do it. I don't have time for it. And he said, I want you to learn how to use the bank and banking system.
mm,
And I said, why are you making me to do it? Is there a division between us that I should learn and go and put it in the money and then I will learn later when I get money? I couldn't use that money as well because it was under his name.
mm,
And but I was not thinking that they will be lost.
mm,
The last minute when he was going out, I said, go and be sure that I will continue my
mm,
path.
mm,
And he turned his face, he said, don't go, don't look for me. Because he was thinking, I'm so
mm.
bold and I will say something and I will be
Yeah, yeah.
arrested as well. And for 2 weeks or a month, I didn't go anywhere actually. And next morning, I went normally to my university, and I was actually thinking that they will not be killed. So they will be in prison and they will do the interrogation and then they will come back because he doesn't do anything
Mm,
or he has not done anything. And then um, until the fall of the regime, I was thinking that he might be alive somewhere
mm.
because people were saying that a lot of people were taken to Siberia to work over there
Yeah,
and
hard labor.
yeah. And so, but I have not heard a single word back, or nobody said that they saw him.
Mm. So the moment that he was taken out of that door, where you give him money as well, you say, okay, keep this with you. And then
Yeah,
that's the last moment that you never had. And the things that really fascinates me as my generation is that we need to learn about that era. And I'm so grateful that you have written is how ubiquitous the spies or the intelligence of the regime were. They were everywhere. And you get that through your husband was taken by one of his students.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm just thinking, you talk about how brothers couldn't trust each other, how families couldn't trust each other, how you couldn't trust anyone. That destruction of trust in people. And I suppose that's how totalitarianism, in a sense,
yeah,
takes root. And I could picture and imagine in my head that you faced that student who took your husband and that smile in his face. And that is when I say how difficult it was to write. And I think you've done such a brilliant work in creating that image in the reader's head to say, okay, this is what happened and this is how it happened. But for me, the the thing that really struck me was me thinking about you didn't give up. You continued the work that you'd begun. The night letters continued. The clandestine meetings continued, and then you graduated, but the regime didn't give you your diploma because they fear that you'd flee and the country will become empty of all the people who'd been trained to become physicians and doctors and engineers. And then you fled and went to Hazarajat to find an entirely new world. with your son Ali.
Mhm.
And so you built this new life in Hazarajat. That's where you're, you know, I just wanted to, there's a lot that's going at that time in your life as well. You left Hazarajat as a young kid, come back with an entirely different person. You're
Mhm.
now no longer Marzieh, you're Sima Samar. And and also you'd lived in the city. And one of the things that really made me laugh was you climbing up the mulberry tree and your mother-in-law is having a go at you. And he's just saying, look, the divergence in culture and in norms and values are so huge that this woman who's just come from Kabul as a doctor now just, how it was just amazing to read.
Yes, I think I wrote this in the book so people can read it, but I did not knew because first of all, Helmand was because it was a city built by the Americans and it was a completely different
Hmm.
place. And I mean, there I can't say that there were no patriarchy and no difference between men and women, but we had the freedom actually. And nobody bothered us when we were going to school with socks,
Hmm.
without scarf.
Hmm.
We had a small scarf, and that was
Yeah.
usually in our shoulder. And you saw that photo of the
And the
school.
scars have put you on a lot of trouble throughout your career.
Yes,
We'll
exactly.
talk
A
about
lot of time. Even now, I'm wearing because I'm afraid of their accusations.
yes.
And so it was. When I went to in Kabul also it was not really bad and never Ghafoor was telling me to wear this or that and we were wearing normal clothes without
Mm.
scarf actually. I didn't have scarf to be honest.
Mm.
So I had one scarf they brought for me, one of these gauch when I was
Yeah, yeah,
engaged.
yeah, yeah.
That was the one that I had it even recently in Kabul.
Mm.
So because I didn't use much, it was only when we were going to some funeral, we were wearing it. That was all. So it
Yeah, there
was,
there are there are great photos in the book as well, so
yes.
people can see themselves.
And I climbed to this tree to collect shotut, the
Yeah,
mulberry tree
yes.
for my son. And I didn't realize because women cannot climb the tree because I and my friend, we were usually climbing the tree in Helmand. So I didn't realize that women cannot climb the tree. So my mother-in-law was calling to
Come down.
and showing to get down, and I didn't pay attention. I said, okay. I thought that the trees not belong to us. I
Yeah,
didn't feel that woman cannot climb
climb
the
up the
tree.
tree.
And then she came, and I said, simply, I said, Khala, the trees not belong to us. And she said, no, the trees belong to us. Women are not. خاطوس. أسأل درخت بالنمس. Woman is not climbing the tree. Oh, well, I see. Anyway, so I was so different. But I have to say that people really receive me well.
In that part of your life where you again make another painful decision to send your child away and really dedicate yourself to delivering health service to people who were in desperate need. And then you continue to work on your clinic, but it's that crucial, that period where you started making connections with outsiders as well, the NGOs, the foreign charities who are coming to help people provide some sort of health service. And you started building those relationships very early on.
Yes, yes. I started, as I said, that I didn't had a lot of money, of course. I didn't had much to, I only had the BP apprentice in my stat school. Then I went to the MSF doctors who just they also arrived maybe a month before me or 2 months before me. I went to some place between Baba in Sangamosha, it's a
Okay.
place with a lot of big rocks in it. I mean, they put some tent over there and started their work. So I start talking to them, and I had some English that I was able to use.
Mm.
And I said, can you give me something? Because I only have this one and I want to work here. They were not, I mean, they were a little suspicious because somebody came, but they saw that I'm a different person
Mm.
from the actual
Yeah,
people in the area. They gave me some syringes. The disposable syringe was not
a thing.
used. It was not invented on that time. So they gave me some syringe and they gave me some antiseptic alcohol and then some gas. So I came and started my let's say clinic. So
Mm.
I asked the local carpenter to make a table for me and a stool and a bench for um, a chair for myself and a bench for the patients. So I started that way. And it was actually when the people were coming, I was doing my political activities, actually.
Mm.
The young boys were coming and I was teaching them. And then
Mm.
my father-in-law was sitting in front of the door watching that these young boys are coming and they're staying for 40 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. And then he quietly said, he was very kind person. He was
Mm.
not aggressive. He said, my daughter, are you checking the men as well? I laughed. I said, Kaka, they are. I don't see them as a man. They are my patients.
Mm.
And I said, don't worry. I promised Ghafoor
Mm.
that I will not cheat on him.
Yeah.
So again, I don't forget, he start crying and he never asked me and he never sat in the door again
Mm.
to look. But yeah, I mean, the mullahs,
Yeah.
Nasra, Nazat and
The
Shawat,
factional, yeah, the
yeah,
factions.
they were, yes, they were the judges, they were the governor and so on. I was not really taking them seriously. So when they were coming as a patient, I was saying, no, they have to wait for their turn.
Yeah.
I can't really do it. So, so, so careless, actually. The
Yeah.
war on Tanzim was started that year when I went.
Mm.
And I saw after I saw that they are able to kill people, they are able to
Yeah.
punish people. And they were punishing people on the open,
Mm.
um, in public in bazaar, they're putting them on the snow and they're beating them,
Mm.
yeah, including some of the boys, some of our friends. It was not an easy, but I resist. They
But
were
let me ask
different.
you, but let me ask you this. At
Yes.
any of these points where you were a medical doctor who'd had a life torn apart by the political development of the country, but continued to campaign uh, and go against the rules and the norms that society had set and also the regime had set. By the time you went to Hazarajat, the regime was not in control of Hazarajat, but there was still, as you mentioned, there are factions who were ruling the area.
Mhm.
But at any of these points, were you not scared,
No,
or
no,
really
it's
you didn't
interesting.
think about it?
No, I was not scared. I was ready to be killed, I would say. As I said, that was really not taking them seriously. And I was saying that I'm not doing anything wrong.
Hmm. And then
But
when you left for Pakistan, you found a job at a hospital. Uh, the networks of contacts that you'd created were beginning to work for you to help you set up, help refugees there. But as somebody who, I spent 4 years in Quetta. Quetta is the place. It's just a beautiful place, isn't it? It's just there's something unique about Quetta. What, just talk about Quetta before, all the things that you've done. What
Yeah.
does Quetta mean to you? What does Quetta means to Sima Samar?
Well, I think it was not an easy decision, but I had to come because it was time for my sons to go to school, and I got open cough myself, so I was
Mm,
not feeling well. But Quetta was, look, to me, it was similar to Kandahar and
mm,
similar to Afghanistan. Although, of course, the Hazaras in Quetta they had different culture.
mm,
Although now it's more mixed, so they
yeah.
are understanding more. Because when I was walking in Quetta, even the Hazaras from Quetta was saying Kabuli, Kabuli, because I was wearing different clothes than
Yeah, yeah.
it was common over there. Because on that time they were wearing the kind of a burqa
Mm,
covering their face, and it was a black chapan and then short.
yeah.
You see in some Indian movies, Pakistani movies now. But then it was interesting because some of four relative invited us for a wedding.
Mm.
So we went there, and women were coming, looking from the window that we want to see the Kabuli with short hair. My hair was short, and I was not wearing my scarf inside the house, actually, outside of the
Again,
house.
the scarf, the scarf.
And it was difficult for a long time because when I was going out, like I was going for shopping, I was not able to control scarf and traffic in the same time
Mm,
because their traffic is different than Afghanistan. And I was
yeah.
always looking in a different direction.
Mm.
And then when I was taking care of traffic, I was not able to handle the scarf. But I learned. I think for me, Koita was a second home.
Mm.
And I have to say also that I was received well by the people quickly.
And you delivered so much for them as well. And the reason people love you, I mean,
Yeah.
people took you as their own. And for a lot of people, you started delivering. I mean, there have been activists, leaders, you name it. But the difference between them and Sima Samar is you really didn't speak. You delivered on the basic needs of people, whether it was health service in Hazarajat and refugees in Pakistan, and then building schools in Quetta. Now, you are, in a sense, synonymous. I remember when I was in Quetta and said, take somebody to Sima Samar's hospital, right? So it was not the Shohada hospital. It was not, the Shohada school. It was Sima Samar school. You were synonymous with the delivering of all these amazing services to people and changing their lives for the better. So there are thousands and millions of people, young men, women, old, whose lives you saved. But of course, you're also clashing against traditional values and cultures. And you talk, in Pakistan, for example, you have a girl who's been raped, and you had to, do a cesarean, I suppose, to protect her. And there are stories like that in the book that you talk about. You didn't just have to protect yourself, but also your job was to protect other women at the same time as you were helping them.
Yes, it was really. I I enjoyed the work, and I was enjoying helping and supporting women from all cultures,
Mm,
and not only the Hazaras, but also all of my Afghans from Turkmens and the Uzbeks and the refugees, the Hazaras from the north, the
mm,
Sunni Hazaras. I never, until I went to the camp, I never thought that the Hazaras are Sunni as well.
mm,
Even when I was activist and I was politically involved on the issue, I never thought that they are the Hazaras can be Sunni as well.
Mm.
And there were Hazaras from the north in the camp. And they were wearing almost similar clothes and talking almost similar, but of course it's different. And I said, it was Muharram. I said, what are you doing during Ashura? And they said, oh, they are not Shias. And I said, you are not Hazara? They said, yes, we are Hazara. It was a lot of stories that now I'm thinking that I should write some of those stories, maybe not in my name.
Definitely, yeah, you should definitely do. I mean, you've done all the work that you managed to do over the years. You'd built a network of hospitals inside Afghanistan and schools inside Afghanistan and in Pakistan. You're being internationally recognized by different organizations, countries. You're going to different countries. 9/11 happens. The Bonn conference. You're on a visit to Canada when the Bonn conference announced the new administration, and you were chosen as the Minister for Women's Affairs. And now that is where I feel, reading the book, that your world took a different direction. You are no longer an activist. You are now a politician. Whether you wanted it or not, you'd been chosen because of your, the work that you'd done, the credibility that you'd built. And that's an entirely different world now. You find yourself, there are Secret Service agents outside your hotel rooms. And
Yep.
and then you're being taken to, high-level meetings with politicians. But when you went into Afghanistan, the world was as difficult for you as it seems that when you first went to Jowhari from Kabul. You were surrounded by these men who didn't understand you. The first time you met Hamid Karzai, for example, you had an argument with him about his choice of clothing.
Yes.
And then, you were chosen, you're given this job, this title, but very little support. And then you have these big, powerful leaders, commanders, who are not only, I suppose, jealous of what you do, but also very frightened, threatened by your presence, because the things you were talking about, human rights, accountability, and it comes to a point where in the book you read, what? That they're planning to kill you. They've killed other people. You're sitting alongside them, but all throughout the book, and my mind just went back and forth and said, why didn't she just give up? But she never does. And
Yes, I think that time was really difficult, and it was even the president and Ibrahimi, both of them wanted me to be ambassador because to end the clashes. And I really did not focus on specific person, but I was focusing generally on accountability. And I was saying that at least they should apologize from the people and not repeat what they did in the past. But nobody was willing to do that. And what is actually sad in Afghanistan, that people become a holy, that nobody can talk against them. They see themselves as a holy person. They can kill, they can arrest, they can torture, they can take the people's daughters because either they did jihad or they are now fighting against whoever they are. And that was something that was not acceptable for me. And I was doing. I told President Karzai, I said, I'm willing to leave any official job. I go back and practice my medicine because I still dream about the patients these days. So I'm not doing it. And he clearly said that I cannot protect you.
Yeah.
I said, I thought that if I leave, nobody would be able to raise their voice.
Mm.
So the first target was me. And nobody, I mean, we were two women in the cabinet. Nobody was talking against Suhaila Siddiq, late Suhaila Siddiq. She died, unfortunately. She was Minister of Public Health, and nobody was talking against her. They were talking against me because I was raising my voice and I was critical on different issues.
Yeah. And also, it was because of you being a woman and a Hazara who were saying those things that they couldn't tolerate, or it's just because of the actual things that you were saying?
Well, I think all three,
Mm.
a woman, a Hazara, and also calling for accountability and justice.
Yeah, and
How
also because
dare I am that time talking against the
yeah, and that
Mujahideen.
comes and that comes across in a sense. There was also a clash of values, you know, uh, that comes in a very kind of, say, for example, you went to America. You're invited by President Bush to attend a session of Congress where it is televised live, and then your scarf, again, I'm just saying the scarf, it slips on your shoulder. And because it's being televised, on the plane back, somebody, Dr. Abdullah, who for a lot of people, he's worldly, he's probably more mainstream. It's not Hamid Karzai who kicks off about your scarf. It's Dr. Abdullah in the plane who kicks off about your scarf.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at it and say, it wasn't just you didn't belong, to them. You were not. You shouldn't have been there, was it?
Yes, I think he simply said our trip would be similar to Amanullah Khan because Sima Jan didn't have her scarf on. And I took off my scarf and threw it on the
Mm,
floor of the plane. I said, if Afghanistan depend on my scarf, let it go.
mm.
And then, of course, President Karzai interfered and made us
Yeah.
quiet. But I I don't understand the mentality, the psychology of these kind of people, and I think really that is what I really always stand against it. And I think that why nobody think about my dignity?
Mm,
They only look at my scarf and the color of my scarf and the size of my scarf. As a Muslim, I don't have an obligation to answer to these people. Where they got that legitimacy to ask me about me being Muslim
yeah.
or
I th
practicing
and I
Islam.
think you were quite, given the way you were being treated by these men during your time as minister and then as the chair of the Human Rights Commission. And of course, there's, people should and must and absolutely should read the book where you talk about establishing the Human Rights Commission and the troubles and the problems that you faced, uh, not being supported by politicians because they had a vested interest. Having a human rights commission was against their interest.
Mhm.
And but what comes across is the sense that Afghanistan, despite all the hopes and excitement, because of these characters, the whole project was doomed to fail because of all the hard work that people like yourself put on. And you were just hitting the brick wall all the time, trying to change things, people standing against it. And then you talk about, and it comes to a head, of course, in August 2021 when you were in America at the time. And, but yeah, let's not give the game away. People need to read the book, and I hope that people do read it. And it's an incredibly thoughtfully written book. It's so powerful. But for me, when the book ends, the story of Sima Samar does not end. You don't end the book to say, "This is Sima Samar. I've done all these things. This is my story. I'm off. I'm retired." But no, you talk about what comes next. and you're ready for what comes next. You've not given up. You've not really given up.
Well, not yet. Not yet. I think, as you said, that it's a lot of different stories in the book that I have written. And I have to mention it's a very small amount of the what I saw and what I wrote in that book. I'm hoping that I will write it in Persian, not translation, but the actual Persian inland with some more stories that what is happening in Afghanistan, just to not to repeat and lessons learned for the younger generation. And I always keeping the girls and boys telling the boys and the girls that nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. It might be difficult. It was difficult, but it is possible with more commitment. And I owe my family, I owe my people that respected me and gave me the possibility to do the work. And it's not only the Hazaras. I've been to Uruzgan, and every one of them really shook hand with me. From the Shura Ulama, from the local, and they always respect me. I don't forget when one of the elder from Uruzgan said, you have to stay tonight, and you have to come at least every month, once a month. And I said, I can't do this. First of all, it's not easy to come to Uruzgan. Secondly, I have all other work to do. I'm not only focusing on Uruzgan. And that is, I think that is also something that I love about that country, and I would like to continue. The people are hostage at the hand of some aggressive, self-oriented politician rather than all people. I mean, the Pashtuns, the Hazaras, the Uzbeks, and Tajiks, and everybody. We need to get out of that problem that we have. And that cannot come without really respecting and giving rights to women.
Yeah, throughout your public life, you've been very reserved. You've been very private in a sense. How did you find to talk about yourself, to write about yourself, to write about your son, to write about your husband Ghafoor, to write about, how did you feel? Is there, the reason I'm asking this because how does Ali feel now? How does he feel all the time that you left him with your mother, and then, how's that?
I don't know how he feels. I recently, maybe last year when I was in Houston, he's living in Houston. I told him that I'm really sorry I didn't pay much attention to you. And he didn't like medicine because I was so busy with the people and didn't give time to him. But he always been supportive. He always, as a young child, he was very, very supportive. When I started Shuhada, he was really doing a lot of writing.
Yeah.
When he was only in 7th grade. I mean, he was helping with Shuhada proposal, with reporting, with all the English part of the things when he was even studying here. Now we have better people to do that. Not better, but I mean, we have people to do that, because on that time, we didn't have a lot of people to do that kind of work. And the way I started was just because I wanted to do some work and bear all those problems and taking all the pains for myself. But yeah.
But taking all the pains for yourself, but what did you discover about yourself while writing? that you'd neglected?
My health, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, because I really had difficulties to sleep, and I didn't. I took it, um, and it was so busy with the work that I was doing, running from one place to another place, taking all those risks. Yeah, it was quite painful, I would say.
It, you know, your service to the people who, your service to the people who, you know, whom you dedicated your entire life to, um, and you know, you've sacrificed so much. And I'm kind of reading the book and I'm taking notes, and there are points that I say, okay, what did she do? Is that I just write down sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. You've sacrificed so much for the people and the country that you love. And the book, Outspoken, My Fight for Freedom and Human Rights in Afghanistan, is just another, you know, how to put it, another gift from Dr. Sima Samar to the very people who've been through a lot, and to the very people whom she's given so much. And I'm so grateful that you have written. Everybody should read it, because you will learn so much about the country, about Dr. Sima Samar, about a period of history in Afghanistan that we all need to really dig deep and learn about. Thank you so much. It's been such a
Thank you.
privilege talking to you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.